Hello, I'm Joe McCarthy at Catchpoint, and in this video I'll be going over the new node-to-node monitoring feature and to get you familiar with the visualizations used. Let's take a look. The node-to-node tests enables you to configure a mesh of tests across your enterprise nodes, so you'll understand the percentage of packet loss, latency, or jitter within your infrastructure. Now this allows you to identify any issues with communication between your data centers, branch offices, or any other locations where your enterprise nodes are deployed. As for displaying the information, you have two options. Build a widget to display one of the three metrics, so packet loss, latency, or jitter. Here I'm displaying jitter. Or build what we call the 3-in-1 widget, which displays all three metrics simultaneously for each location. As you can see, especially with the 3-in-1 widget, we're displaying a lot of information into a very small space. So let's go through the methodology behind these views. So as I mentioned, we monitor three metrics: packet loss, latency, and jitter. And we use three shapes to signify the status of those metrics. So if the metric is in good standing, you'll see a circle. A warning is a square, and for critical, you'll see the triangle. And it's the same for packet loss, latency, and jitter. Notice, I did not mention the color of the shapes because, as you will see, within the 3-in-1 view, the color is dependent on the state of the worst reporting metric. We do use the international color code of green is good, yellow is warning, and red is critical. So now I've moved to the dashboard, and let's look at how a single widget is displayed and how the 3-in-1 widgets are displayed. Starting here on the left, we're looking at jitter as the metric. And if I put my cursor over any one of the blocks, say I'll just grab this green one here, we highlight the two locations being monitored, Boston and Atlanta. And here you can see it's a green box, so the jitter is 0 milliseconds at the time of this reading. And then you can also see that the 7-day average is 8.1 milliseconds. So it's obviously well under the 7-day average, which is why it's green. If I go to a red test, here we're looking at Atlanta and Denver. We can see the triangle. Now we know triangle is a critical alert, and we can see that the jitter for the time of this reading is 22 milliseconds, when the 7-day average is just 3.81, which is why this was triggered red. Same for yellow. Again, the square means warning. So for Seattle to Atlanta, it was 18 milliseconds, and the 7-day average, 13.84, so just above. Now you'll also notice this diagonal row or column of white squares. What this represents, we're looking at the same location. So Miami US Verizon, Miami US Verizon. Obviously you're not going to monitor the same location. So that's how we signify it's just the same location, and you're never going to get readings for that. Another square you'll see is this node test data, which is gray. And for those, it's just at the time of this reading, there was no data for that time period. And that's what that shows. So that's how the single widget will display either packet loss, latency, or jitter. Now let's move on to the 3-in-1 view, and there's a lot of information, so let's take a look. The key thing to remember when you're looking at a 3-in-1 view is, let's look at Denver and Atlanta. You see the three icons. They're all circles. The first icon, regardless of what it is packet loss. The middle one or the second one is latency. And the third will always represent jitter, just as it is at the top of the widget: packet loss, latency, jitter. So it'll always be that sequence. Let's move on to a yellow location. Right here, Miami and Atlanta. Again, the first icon, which is a circle, represents packet loss. The second icon is a square, which is warning, which is yellow, is latency. And the third icon, which is again is a circle, which is good, is jitter. So now you know for Miami, Atlanta, the reason why this square is yellow is because of latency being a square. Now let's move on to one that has all three. Let's go to Seattle and Atlanta. Packet loss is a circle, so it's good. Latency is a triangle, which is critical, which is why this is red. And jitter is a square, which is a warning. So critical overrides warning, which is why this square is red. So the key thing to remember, it always goes packet loss, latency, jitter. And that's how you can understand what's going on within the 3-in-1 view across all the metrics, somewhat simplistic view that we're trying to display here. Now I also want to show that you can perform deep dive analysis from any one of these widgets. So for example, I'm in the Jitter widget and I'll select Seattle to Boston, Verizon circuit. It's showing red. When I click into this, I'm taken to the records view. So for this link, Seattle to Boston, we're looking at a 3-hour time frame. That's what this displays here. Each one of these blue columns is 5 minutes of time. And you've got 180 minutes or 3 hours to look at. The time slider, this is broken up into 3 hours. Even if you try to expand it, it'll go back to 3 hours. So just keep that in mind. You can move it around, but it's just a 3-hour block of time. So now that we're looking at packet loss, again, the power of records views, you can open up latency, jitter, or packet loss to show the different metrics. You can even go all the way to the 3-in-1 from this view. That's the power of the records view. So I've moved to a more critical circuit, Atlanta US Verizon to Miami US AT&T. As I scroll down, we can see with the latency, jitter, packet loss. And as I continue to slide down, because we're doing TCP trace route, we can see the connection all the way across. Now here we're showing it by autonomous system. We can change that to city and even country. And as I look down, we're showing all the different types of tests, round trip time, packet loss, jitter, and the actual IP address where things may be going south. So we can see 78.33% latency, and here is it where it's represented within the chart. And you can see the actual IP address that is causing the problem. So the power of the records view, it shows you detailed information, so now you know exactly where to focus your attention. All right, so now that you know how to view the data, let's go into how do you actually create a test. So from the control center, click into synthetic, and here you simply want to click on new. From here, scroll to the bottom, and this is where you'll see the new node-to-node tests. Pick the flavor that you want to run. I'll just select traceroute TCP. From here, select the location. I'll grab network, so it'll inherit those settings and select that location. Now this is just like any other test you do create. You can see it's node to node. You'd give it a name. From here, the only requirement is to do the target and scheduling. So define what enterprise nodes you wish to use. So I'll click on that portion, and here I'll open this up. And you can see it's inheriting the network settings. If you want to override it, simply do that. You can see enterprise is already selected, as that's the only nodes you can use. And then enter in the nodes, the enterprise nodes you wish to use for this node-to-node test. Hit save, and there you've done. You've created the test. I'll cancel out of this. And now that you've created a new test, we can create a new widget within the dashboard. So like any other widget, simply go into edit mode, and you want to add a widget. The source will be node-to-node. So under synthetic, you'll see the node-to-node. Select that. And as soon as you do that, the only visualization you can use is the matrix chart. Select that and hit continue. From here, give it a name. You want to define or select the test that you created for the node-to-node test. You can do that from the list. And then you define the matrix chart. It's already defined as far as visualization. And then define which metric do you want to use. Here we can use packet loss, latency, jitter, or do the 3-in-1 view. Now do note, when you select a specific metric, we hard code in the thresholds for you. So packet loss is defined as that, latency, and jitter. And when you do the 3-in-1 view, again, we define all the thresholds for you. So that's hard coded into the product. When you finish that, simply hit save, and you've created a new node-to-node widget.